There you go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with. My name's Yilay from Light Your Life, and today I have Pete Bengry with me, and he's currently in Estonia. But you reside in the UK mainly, or are you kind of like an explorer?
I kind of go everywhere. I'm an explorer. Yeah.
No, I met Pete on a sound healing intensive course in the States 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And we really connected, and he's already been over to New Zealand and shared his gifts. You can tell the people out there what you do, because you're not only a musician, but you're a healer as well, and a shamanic practitioner.
Yeah. And I do lots of different things. I do shamanism. I do primal therapy. And because I've been playing the drum for so many years, I've done all the rock and roll years as well, and I feel as if everything I've done in my life has kind of created like a really strong foundation to be able to weave everything together. So I feel at the moment I'm kind of refining into mature years of everything I've done in my life, and I've really been able to refine it, which is a beautiful thing to experience and to share.
Can you give the people watching out there just a quick high-level overview of, I guess, where you started, or when you've been in
when I started having interest in percussion when I was 5. But rather than it being percussion, it was more rhythm. I was fascinated by a rhythm. I was playing everything in the house. I was playing pretty well every single thing with my hands. And I think I was I don't think I was a very needy child. I think I was very at peace with my own presence and with my own exploration of rhythm. So that continued, and then when I was 10, I went to South Africa, and I went to go and visit the Zulus and various other communities with my mother. I didn't kind of go out on a pilgrimage at the age of 10, but. But I went over there, and witnessing the Zulu drummers was life-changing at that age. It was absolutely incredible. So I came back, and then I got a drum sent over from South Africa from my uncle, and it was a tourist drum. It wasn't anything special, but I knew my faith was the drum, but I didn't know any more than that. And so I carried on playing anything and everything with my hands. And then when I got into my teenage years, I continued to play this little drum I'd got, but as I said, it wasn't very good. And then I wanted to play the drum kit in bands. I didn't have any money, so I finished off playing the drum kit like this, and just imagining all the different sounds. Played the drum kit like that and heard all the different sounds in my head. And so taught myself to play that way. And then when I got the opportunity to be involved in some of the youth projects in England, I was able to get access to a drum kit and play it. And I naturally could just play it because I'd already practiced in my head. And so
were your family musical as well? Did they have that kind of background?
No, it was just like... No, my mother was very artistic. But no, there was no music involved. I think there was in Ancestors. There was a guy who used to play the bugle, probably, I don't know, great grandparents, and they used to call him Bugle Bengry. And he finished off going off to the US and went to Chicago. But that was a long time ago. So no, there was no links to music in the family. I just knew I had rhythm in me, and so played in loads of different bands, and also I played a lot on my own as well. So I kind of I wasn't afraid to just lock myself away and just play and practice, and so And then I started experimenting with music and sound recording and various different things. And then I got the opportunity to play in the band Corner Shop. And so I played with them for about 15 years, and I was playing percussion. And because I'd done all my preparation of playing alone and exploring the drum, I could pretty well step into playing any rhythm instrument from a very open space, so I could learn from the instrument, and also together we would bond, and then together we would go on the journey together. So I did that, and then
Is that
had a really good time.
I think that's quite a unique skill to have, to be able to have that ability to tune in and be in communion with that instrument and be part of a group as well.
I think one thing I've learned over the years with teaching is people are conditioned to not always believe they can do something, and sometimes people will look at someone who is very good at what they do because they practice, because they put the time in, and they look at them and they see a divide between what they can do and what that person can do. And sometimes people will immediately sit in a place of, well, I'll never be as good as them. And it's like, well, you'll be as good as where you are at this precise time. And so when I teach, I always say to people that you'll never meet a greater teacher than the drum, because the drum was my teacher. I didn't get a physical teacher in someone having drum lessons or anything like that, and having so many drum lessons a week. My teacher was always the drum. And so I think the beauty of music is it's the same thing as a friendship, where you can be friends with someone and you can begin to get to know them so well that you can almost anticipate what they're going to say in the next sentence, because you know them so well. And that's the same thing with an instrument, is you can get to know the instrument so well that a bond begins. And again, it's putting the time in. If you don't practice and practice and practice and play and make mistakes and even allow the mistakes to be the new path to go up while you're working with that instrument, there's no exploration. So
that's very beautifully put. Yeah, a lot of people don't see the hard work necessarily, the work that's been put in behind.
No way. No. And one thing that's really interesting is I was in Japan a few years ago, and I wanted to go to see the Kodo drummers. And I finished off speaking to one of the managers from Sadegashimi Island, which is where they live, and we had a chat. And the Kodo drummers were actually on tour at that time, so I couldn't go over. But I shared what I'd been doing and my approach to drumming and music. And he said the Kodo drummers, how they work is when they begin to train, they get 2 sticks and they get a piece of wood. They learn all the rhythms using the 2 sticks and the piece of wood. Once they've learned the rhythms and they've mastered the rhythms, then they go onto the drums. And in the Western world, it's very different, because we sometimes get the drums first, and then when people are given something too soon, they sometimes don't value it. When they wait for it and they have to find that something inside themselves, which then they can bring to the instrument, there's a greater foundation between themselves and the instrument, because they've got a core inside themselves. If they just get the instrument and there's no core inside themselves, there's no real foundation. They have to work on the foundation, which is then the lessons with a teacher and going up that route. But if they find the core inside themselves, then they also can mirror the instrument, and then together they can walk in partnership, themselves and the instrument, to be able to then create the unique sound that they've developed, finding their core and the instrument together. So
beautiful. So how did you get into, I guess, the more shamanic depths of your journey? So you're exploring.
I think a lot of it was naturally intuitive when I was very, very young. I felt that my support in my childhood came from nature, and I used to talk to the moon a lot. I used to kind of talk to the moon and the stars, and so I found that the moon and the stars and nature became very they were always there. They were reliable, and so I always felt that I had a resource with nature. Sometimes, as a child, when I was kind of connecting to my peers and my parents, it wasn't always reliable. It wasn't always solid. Where nature was always solid. So I finished off spending more time sharing my feelings and thoughts with nature. And and even now, if I'm struggling or I'm going through a certain situation, I'll talk to the moon, and I can laugh with the moon, I can cry with the moon, I can do lots and lots of different things emotionally with the moon, and I feel that in many ways I've got many parents in my life, I've got many supporters, I've got many loved ones in my life, both in the physical and the non-physical world. And
did you feel that they were responding to you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think when you're a child, you're so full of imagination that you can talk to the moon, and you can, we can all believe as children that we're talking to the man in the moon, or we're talking to the woman in the moon, or we're talking to the spirit of the moon, because there's so many magical stories that we can be told as children about, the magic of the moon and the magic of this and the magic of that, and so I continued that, and I continued to connect to nature, and then with the continuation of the working with the drum, having my faith with the drum, but didn't really know what that faith was. It wasn't until about probably 25 years ago that I learnt shamanism, and then I started to learn the foundation of various shamanic techniques, which then helped me to refine all the years I've been working with the drum into the shamanic techniques, and I was just like a duck to water. It was just so natural. It just flowed so easily because I'd already built up the relationship with the drum.
So it sounds like you've always had this curiosity, that childlike exploration, like you said, and quite nicely reminded by that childlike wonder.
I know.
Having no point of view. What's going on here then? Yeah. And did that ever stop for you at all, or has always been there for you? And
no, it's never stopped.
Nice.
Ever.
So what would you give those that feel that they may feel disheartened, like you said, like if they look at other people and you kind of feel like, I can't do that, or can't get there?
It doesn't matter how much of an expert you are and how good you think you are, there will always be someone better, always. But it's the perception of using the word better. It's important that people realize is that whatever you do is unique to how you do it, and if we sit in a place of comparing ourselves to somebody else, we're not sitting in our own unique authenticity. We're sitting in a perception of ourselves compared to somebody else, which means that we're not 100% full of ourselves. We are potentially 50% full of ourselves, and then we've got 50% of a perception looking at someone else comparing ourselves to them. So we've already reduced our own capacity of our own power, and so to sit in our own place of power is to sit in our true 100% of uniqueness, and whatever that is the path we need to trust. Then we find our gifts.
Beautiful. And children are a good way to remind us of that, because they just are being themselves.
Children are in the moment. They're completely in the moment, and one thing that's interesting is that children are full of magic. Children are full. They are 100% full, if not more, and that's probably why they get frustrated and they get this, that, and everything, because they are 100% full, and they're being filled up with lots of different things, with lots of stimulus, lots of new emotions and everything, but they are full of their own essence and their own magic. And sometimes what can happen is when they start to reach out to parents and peers and people that are considered their teachers and their guides in life. If they're not being seen as being full of magic, then we can very easily manipulate and reduce their magic and bring them into a world where there's no magic.
And so start believing, I guess, that's the belief of shutting down or
yeah. Well, that's what happens to a lot of people, and I think sadly we're all born with everything we need, and then we kind of go through life and we experience certain things in life, and then when we're potentially in our 20s or 30s or 40s, we start attending workshops to be able to try and find things that we were originally born with but we've lost. And so if we could harness the beauty of the magic of the child and continue to allow that to grow into our adult lives, probably all the therapists would probably be unemployed.
Indeed. So what about, you said the drum's your teacher, but is there, or has it always been the drum that's giving you advice or a tool or a technique that has really helped you on your path, that you really integrated and go, oh my goodness, I never forget that, what that person
the drum
said.
is...
Or has it always been the drum?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the drum's enormous. It's something that I've never ever said goodbye to. I might have put it down and not played it for a while, but the beauty of the drum is if you witness the drum as a rhythm. Well, if you witness the drum as being an instrument you can play a rhythm with, then there's also, from a shamanic perspective and from a true natural perspective, we're living in a rhythm of life. We're surrounded by natural cycles. So nature follows a set of cycles in order to be able to grow life and end life. So we can have seeds that grow, and then we get seeds that also grow, and then they reseed, and then the plant dies, and then the new seed goes off to create another plant. So there's an eternal growth and evolution naturally within life. And the beauty of the drum, because it's a rhythm, we can find the link to our heartbeat, and we can also find the link to the rhythm of life, which is the natural cycles of life. And I think the biggest danger that we all have now as a race is that we've come to a point where it's very, very, very clear that we've stepped out of the natural cycles of life, and we've created potentially artificial environments for ourselves, and we're witnessing the changes in the natural cycles of life. And it's really important that we as a race need to realize that we are a living organism living on a living organism, and that we are nature. We're not we're not concrete, we're not this, we're not that. We are nature, and we need to reseed ourselves back into nature. And I think the drum is a real sacred unity between our ability to be able to witness ourselves as being part of nature, because it carries a heartbeat, and it carries a heartbeat from ourselves with the drum. And also because the drum is a circle, the earth is a circle, and a lot of shamanic work is done in a circle, and the moon is a circle, and a lot of healing work is done within a circle. So it's a really beautiful instrument to be able to weave into lots and lots of different modalities.
Indeed. And I hear that even like the insects, or even the tribes that you mentioned, that they are listening to the sounds of the nature, the beat, so that's their influence.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because there was also a story where I think there was a tsunami many years ago, and there was some people that survived, and they were asked how they survived, and they said, well, they watched the animals and the insects, and they, before the tsunami had even turned up, and they witnessed that they were all going to higher ground, so they followed them, and they all went to higher ground, and they survived. So there has to be a real harmony of how we can witness each other, and so again, that's a real beautiful way of sitting in ourselves, taking responsibility of ourselves within this life, within nature, and within a support network supporting all life on Earth.
So do you feel there's any possibility of, you saying that, say, if nature is our natural way of being in harmony with that, and are we then in disharmony or dissonance with that, with the other ways we've been creating the world? Is there a possibility that we can have harmony with all those symphonies, if you like, of you mentioned the concrete, I guess, life and nature? Is there some way you feel that all things can live together, or you feel that it's our path to go back to the drum beat and the nature?
I think we can definitely live together, but what we need to do is that I think we need to live in a more conscious awareness where we recognize the importance of nature and the importance of nature in ourselves, and also because we are nature, and also important, and also recognize the importance of integrating nature into our communities and into our whole lives. And I think there's some countries which is like, coming to New Zealand is just like, oh my God, it's like the Garden of Eden. It's just gorgeous. And even being in Estonia, it's like, I talk to some people, and people in Estonia say that nature is their religion, and I think I just think it's really important that we don't remove ourselves too much from nature, because I think that's been happening over many years, which is probably the reason why we have climate change and why we have lots of other changes within our lives, and and even with the forest being cut down, I mean, we're potentially cutting the lungs of the earth, which then we're cutting the lungs of ourselves.
Well, that's going to say, yeah, there's that inner outer analogy that you're using there about, and that's my belief as well, that we're almost like representing each cell in our body, and the roads and the highways are almost like our arteries and pathways, and
most definitely
reality of that inner and outer, and can we create harmony within ourselves, and like you said, with the external, I guess, is reflecting our internal, and as I guess so many people are tempted to change the outer as well. But
I think,
drum, is that your go-to then when you feeling? Do you ever feel dissonance within yourself and challenges, and what's your go-to?
oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, most definitely, definitely. I mean, we're all human, and I think what I've learned is, and this is what I integrate into teachings, is the first thing. I teach a body of work called the 5 frequencies of freedom, and the first frequency is friction, and we can all get friction in the mind, and a lot of us are all in friction. Some people are in more friction than others. But in my opinion, and what I've learned from my kind of spirit guides, is the first thing we need to do following friction is forgive. Because we need to forgive ourselves for having friction. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to feel a negative emotion. It's okay to feel something unpleasant. It's okay to even make a mistake. But what happens sometimes is we can go to a place where we can criticize ourselves for doing something, and we can criticize ourselves for feeling a certain way, and then that puts us back into friction. And so how I've kind of created the 5 frequencies of freedom is to get to a place where we're allowing ourselves to feel something but not hold on to it, and then to let it go, feel the forgiveness, and then go into feeling focused freedom. And the beauty of the drum is that we can create rhythms using the drum that can actually replicate how we're walking, and we can use the drum as a sacred tool to be able to guide us, so we are walking with a conscious awareness. And it's okay if we realize that we are just human beings, and human beings make mistakes, and human beings are learning. We learn through lots and lots of different ways, and it's okay to just be gentler with ourselves. But
absolutely, it's like you're saying about exploring the drum and being okay with making wrong beats and failing, and kind of trying, but keep trying and getting up. And
yeah, exactly. Because sometimes what will happen, and that's why I came up with the 5 frequencies of freedom, is because I've seen so many people make mistakes whilst playing, and the first thing they do is they go like that, and they kind of criticize themselves, and they say, I've made a mistake in front of all these people. Shame arrives, then another emotion arrives, and then they finish off going to a place where they lose the confidence, and then they hide away, and then they put the drum down, and then it all just goes. But mistakes are wonderful things, because I remember when I was playing a lot in the real music days, I would finish off playing very similar rhythms that would be very repetitive, and they would continue themselves. And then it wasn't until I started to also make mistakes. So I used to follow the mistakes, and the mistakes used to guide me into another level of playing. So in reality, in rhythm, there's no mistakes, because if you do make a mistake, you can just say, well, I'm playing jazz.
So true.
And I don't wish to disrespect the jazz musicians,
because there's a skill in that genre in itself. So are you going to reveal the other frequencies, or is that something people can come to you with, and is this a part of your workshop? Or
say that again?
The other frequencies that you offer, the 5.
Oh, that's part of a workshop called the Silence of Sound.
The Silence of Sound, beautiful.
Yeah. And
where are you teaching that at?
Oh, well, I've taught that in Lithuania and Estonia, and it's something that I've just started to develop, because what I wanted to do was help people to realize that there's 2 worlds. There's silence and there's sound, and there's a bridge between silence and sound. And I wanted people to recognize that we have to center ourselves in silence as much as we have to center ourselves in sound. And it's not always about the silence. No, it's not always about the sound, because sound healers may focus on the sound, meditators may focus on the silence, but I'm focusing on the bridge.
Yeah.
So that
yeah, I totally agree.
So when we create a sound, we sit in the space of silence, we create the sound, and the sound will naturally be a waveform, and the sound will naturally go back into silence as it comes from silence, and then it goes into sound, and then the waveform changes. So, in my opinion, the magic happens in the space of the waveform as it's going from silence into sound, back into silence. That part there, where the waveform is rising, going into sound, that, in my opinion, is where the magic is happening, because that's like it's the space in between the breath. So we can breathe in and we can breathe out. Both parts of the inhalation and the exhalation are crucial, but it's that space, in between the breath, and that's the space, which is the bridge. Because when I began playing as a child, and I continued to play, I used to play a rhythm, then I would cut the rhythm in half. I'd go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, cutting the rhythms all the time. And when I played, I would give each finger and thumb its own purpose within the rhythm. So I'd try and split my brain to focus on the thumb, the forefinger, the middle finger, and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't just be playing with the hand, I'll be playing with all fingers. And again, so if you link it into the waveform, you've got sound, 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 silence, 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 and it's moving all the time. And so that's what I really loved about coming to New Zealand and getting the sound healing from you, because I could actually sit there, or lie there rather, and receive a healing and immerse myself in something that was exceptional, because it's not very often that I actually get that opportunity, because I'll be teaching all the time, and when I actually receive the opportunity to get a healing from someone who's very good, it's like, oh.
Likewise, they were kind of rubbing on the back, but yeah, I totally agree. It's when you find someone that allows the space, like you said, and has that ability to tune in, and move themselves out their way fully and be that hollow room. I really enjoy the journey you took us through as well, and I've heard you obviously at the sound healing retreat in the States, and that's when I first heard you. It's like, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
And so it was my, shamanic in my head was something so different and quite, I don't know, I just had a really interesting definition of it, and decided it wasn't my cup of tea. But when I heard your drumming, it was like, oh my goodness, it's totally different, and really, I felt really safe to journey with you. So that's amazing. So what are you exploring? What themes are you exploring now that are kind of taking you to your edge, shall we say?
Well, yesterday when I was teaching at the festival, I was giving a lecture about the three cauldrons, which is it's a Celtic belief system linked to the Druids, and it's not an alternative to the chakras, but it's looking at the three cauldrons, where you get the cauldron in the belly, which is the cauldron of warming. You get the cauldron in the heart, which is the cauldron of motion, and then you get the cauldron of wisdom, which is in the third eye. And it's looking at the elements within each cauldron, and how all living life forms also contain three cauldrons. Yeah. And it's
I'm glad you said when you said, sorry, when you said cauldron, I had hubble, bubble, and trouble. No, it's something more sophisticated than that.
So that's what I was teaching yesterday. And, but I think what I really try and do now is that I try and center people to be in the place to feel and sense and allow them to feel exactly who they were born to be, because sometimes we can be so influenced by other people around us where we forget who we are, and we finish off living our lives based on somebody else's perception of who we are. And and I think it's really, really important that we have resources in our life that can be able to help us to locate who we are, because it can be sometimes a very, very painful journey to remove the perceptions of who we're told we are, to then find out who we are. And that's why we need so many resources, and we need help along the way, because
actually,
sometimes
that so did you have, like, especially when you went through your corner shop days, did you have any expectation of an idea of what something would be like, for example, coaching or shamanic or being a pop star or whatever, and it turned out not to be that? So did you, on your path, have you kind of come across, I'm going to be this, and it just totally wasn't?
Yeah. I think I kind of did anticipate a certain few things, especially like going on workshops and going on various different paths in life, and even with connecting with people as well, friendships, relationships, etc. And I think I eventually got to a place of just accepting where things were and what was happening, and focused more about my presence inside that place, rather than what the place could give me, and or what the path in life could give me, or what the opportunity in life could give me. Because I remember because we were very successful in corner shop, and I remember we went all the way to the Brit Awards in London, and we were all there and all smart and everything, and it was I remember standing there, I think I was there around the table with the rest of the guys and friends, and just looking around and just thinking, wow, this is potentially the pinnacle of the mountain, because we had like a number one hit, and it's like, well, you can't get any higher than number one. This is the peak of the mountain. I remember being at the Brit Awards, and it was like, this isn't really what I want. It just felt so, I wouldn't say superficial, but some people may want that because it's celebrity stardom. It's you're surrounded by all these celebrities, and I just didn't want that. I wasn't interested in that. I am more interested in helping people find themselves. It's a wonderful opportunity to go on that journey, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And I've got a lot of gratitude to have had that opportunity. But my joy is working with people in a very sacred way, so that they can find themselves. And if they go to those places and they reach the pinnacle of the mountain and the peak, that's that's wonderful.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're exploring other peaks.
Most definitely. Yeah.
And what a beautiful way, the life goes on. You just find another thing to.
Well, I feel like a mountaineer.
And guide and a mountaineer, yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when I after we had the number one, and I said to people, okay, I need to find a new mountain to climb. A lot of people couldn't understand, because they were like, well, you've reached the mountain of this, you can do so much with this. And I said, well, I know I can, but my soul was calling for new mountains to climb, because there's so many people out there in life that that I know how much the drum supported my life, and I know how much the drum changed my life, and in many ways that gratitude from my heart is so deep in the drum that I want to share everything that I experienced with the drum, both musically and spiritually, and with teachings. Plus, we've been able to share my music on CDs and live and performances. So it's opening it up, to lots and lots of. It's opening up like a flower rather than just going one way.
So where next then? You're going to Estonia, Greece, and you're coming back to New Zealand as well, right?
Yeah, I've got to work out the absolute plan, because I'm going to Finland at the end of the month. Okay. Then I'm coming back to Estonia. Then I'm going back to England for a few weeks. Then I'm going to Portugal, teaching Portugal. Then I'm going back to England, and then I've got to send off some information to Australia, which I'll do today, and I'll send some information off to you as well.
Yep.
And then it's like a breakdown of new courses that I can teach.
Fantastic.
So I'm working out what to do for the end of the year, and then also planning things for next year as well.
And you've also got a book, and have you got another book coming? So the book you have out is on Amazon, which I'll
I've got the one book which is Inhaling the Breath, Exhaling the Word, which is a book of poetry. And then I've got another book called The ABC of Love, which is it's about a child's perspective of love and about the alphabet linked to love. And then that one needs to be edited, and then it's ready to go. And then I've got the other book which I wrote in New Zealand, which is The Search for Kindness. That needs to be edited, and then it's ready to go. But all I've been doing since I came back is either giving sessions or running around the world teaching, and so I need to get some real downtime and be somewhere where I can just lock myself away and just edit and read and edit, because I think sometimes, because I'm not like I don't have the same foundation with writing as I do with the drum. Writing is very spontaneous. It's very kind of just go with the flow. I can sense that if I'm not careful with the editing, I can rewrite what I've already written, and I can either change the magic or I can reweave it into something else. So in many ways, I'm trying to discipline myself so that I'm in the right space to be able to read it and not manipulate it too much, because it's a new mountain to climb. So I'm very conscious of my of the footprints that I make on the mountain, that they are footprints that were trodden when I wrote those words, rather than footprints that are trodden too much from the editing. I don't want to rewrite what those original footprints were.
You've got to lose the essence in that, I guess, those moments.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing those come out, and I'll post the links on the existing book you have out. And just to finally wrap up, what I'm going to put you on the spot. One piece of advice you would give other explorers out there how to navigate, how to achieve their greatness?
Have the courage to look within. Have the courage to be vulnerable. Have the courage to not focus on being strong all the time, and have the courage to be brave enough to explore your own talents, because all of us have talents, and by having a natural talent and a natural gift, you've already got something in your blood. If you've got a gift inside your blood, that is something that is already there. It's something that can grow. And by having it in your blood, you're halfway there. It's something that's already in your soul. And if it's in your soul, let that be the key to the door of life. And whatever you create, once you walk through that door, you're being guided by what you've already got inside you. So just trust your own gifts, because, and even some people say, well, I've got no hobbies and I've got no this, I've got no that. That's conditioning talking. That's not the true self talking, because all of us have gifts. It doesn't matter how small they are, we've all got gifts.
And if people wanted to contact you to help have a guide to, I'm really...
Well, they can contact me on Facebook. It's Pete Bengry on Facebook. And then they can also contact me on beinginbeauty@gmail.com. Okay. And I also have the website beinginbeauty.com as well, which I'm slowly updating. It needs... I'm after someone who can help me with with the web design and building the website, because I'm not very good at that. So if anyone watches this video and says I can help you, then please get in touch.
Ooh, I might be able to.
There you go.
We'll see. We'll chat after. Okay. Well, we're kind of up to the time now, and thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It's been remarkable, and I just feel like I've learned so much more about you in these few minutes, even though we've seen each other a few times. So thank you so much. I'll post the links in the comment section, and it's going to be on my website as well. So yeah, until then, until the next Conversations With, see you guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care. Lots of love. Bye.